Do you want to go from being a simple attacker to this? To become better and improve yourself in the attacking area, you need to level up your game and master different type of attacking techniques with different difficulties. With today's video, we are going to show you 5 of them, starting with the most simplest, followed by more advanced and even impossible ones. Let's get started. The most basic attacking technique you can imagine is to make a player run forward. The idea is to explore the space in behind the defensive line. There are a couple of ways to achieve that. If you have the ball and want another player of yours to start a run, simply point him out with your left analog stick and briefly tap the L1, LB button. Right after this execution, you'll immediately notice that your intended player starts sprinting. This method is extremely strong against the opponents who don't pay attention to the runners. Here I am going out for an attack from the back. As the pass is traveling to my midfielder, I take a look at my striker, see the potential space ahead of him. Pointing him out with the left analog stick and briefly tapping the L1 button makes him run wild into that space, and since the defender failed to anticipate him early, I get the ball freely, go towards the goal and finish off this chance. Another way to create movement like this is to use the 1-2 pass. Instead of making another player run, you simply pass the ball with your initial player to another teammate, and with the help of the 1-2 pass, he starts running forward right after he passes the ball. To be able to perform it, simply hold on to your L1, LB button and pass the ball. This method could be very useful against the players who aggressively presses at your initial passer and get their defenders out of their positions. Going out with my wingback, I pass the ball to my striker with a 1-2 pass, which makes my initial passer run. After seeing the terrible defensive move of the opponent, I decide to use this run against him since I get a 1 vs 2 opportunity. Even though the opponent tried to anticipate the run, he couldn't catch the winger, and with a through ball I get in behind, get past the keeper and score once more. We completed the first level. Let's get to the switching sides part. Switching sides is one of the most necessary techniques when it comes to the attacking, but why? To understand this, let's take a closer look to the defenders. When you have the ball on one side of the pitch, the opposition team slowly shifts towards that side, meaning they start overloading there. It is harder to move, pass, or create anything. But since the whole team is shifting towards one side, they leave the other a bit more open. That means if you can get the ball onto the other side, you can have much more space. There are 2 ways to switch sides efficiently. First one is through the air with a long ball. If you have wingers in your formation, or much better, attacking wingbacks, you can easily use this method. The ball gets to my right wingback, and as you can see, the opposition team starts to come towards my side. Looking at the radar, I see my wingback going a bit towards forward, and since the defense shifts towards the lower side, he is completely free. Going for a long ball towards that side creates a huge space for me, and with the header of my winger, I get the ball safely towards that empty area. With 2 passes within seconds towards the other side, I break the majority of the defense, create space for the others, and score an easy goal. The other switching side method is on the ground. If you can manage to pass the ball rapidly from one side to another with a quick tempo, you can create a huge goal scoring opportunity. This mostly happens when you're stuck in the wing. You have to see the connections between your own players. Here I want to pass the ball first back towards my midfielder, who will have more open targets to pass to. While the ball is traveling, I look at my players' positionings again. Since I want to switch towards the other side quickly, I need to pick one player closer to the center, so I pass the ball to the supporting player. Now I know where the position is going to end, which is on top side close to the penalty spot with Hullet, but I can't pass directly to him, which is why I pass the ball quickly towards the open player and then rapidly to Hullet, who then scores the goal. This quick passing is possible with a specific passing type, which brings us to our next level, the driven passes. With the driven passes, you can send incredibly fast and strong passes on the ground. The travel time of the ball is much shorter, leaving the defender also less time to react to it. Consecutive driven passes could easily slice the defense. To be able to send it, simply hold on to your R1 or B button while passing. If you see a wide open target, you can always use this passing type. However, if the target is being challenged by a defender, the driven passes might get harder to catch just because they come so fast and strong. In these cases, passers with the pink pass playstyle and the receivers with the first touch playstyle could be very useful. Driven passes might also get easily intercepted if there's a defender close to the passing lane, so make sure there is no one in between. Last but not least about the driven passes, the ending point of the pass heavily depends on the current move of the target. If they are stationary, the pass will go directly at their current whereabouts. However, if they are moving, it will go straight to their running lane. If that's the case, make sure to cancel the player's run first by pressing the R1 RB button while pointing them out with the left stick, and then go for the driven pass. Here's one of the scenarios in which I use them. As I pass the ball back, I look for the opportunities around and see my striker uncovered to receive the ball. After making sure that there is no one in between, I decide to go for a driven pass instead of a normal one, since that will travel faster. With this, the opponent panics and goes for a wrong switch that opens up the upper lane for another driven pass, and with quick passing, I get myself another goal. On our platform, The Guide Plus, we recently published a tutorial about the driven passes and their advanced tricks. If you want to know more, make sure to visit the links in the description. Now we get to the more advanced stuff. Do you regularly see one of your players making a run into the wrong direction? Or the opponent's defense makes a huge mistake and you wish one of your players fills that spot and gets the ball? Well, this is possible with directed runs. With the directed runs, you can manually select the running direction of one of your players. Here is how to trigger a directed run. Once you know your intended target, simply tap the L1, LB button while pointing him out with the left analog stick as if you were triggering a normal run. This time, however, you have to briefly tap the right analog stick into the direction you want him to switch to. That way, he quickly goes to wherever you pick and can create a different chance. You don't need to directly tap the right stick after triggering a normal run. First, make sure the run takes place after pressing the L1, LB button. Then, you can wait for the convenient moment to execute it. Directed runs are not easy to learn. You need to practice a lot. To be able to practice them better, you might want to switch on the trainer, which visualizes the directed runs with arrows. Simply go into your trainer options, enable it, and only turn the directed runs options on. In draft games or division rivals, these lines are pretty useful, but please note that they are not enabled in any of the Champions games, even though the mechanic perfectly works. You can use the directed runs to fill the empty spots in the opposition defense within your build-up, making a central striker open up a bit towards the side, or forcing a winger cut in towards the box can create huge opportunities. Here's one example. After retrieving the ball back, I see the striker ahead of me. I want to make a run, but if I just press the L1 button, she will start running forward towards the cover space instead of the free one. So I briefly tap the L1 button to make sure that the run starts, and shortly after, tap the right analog stick 45 degrees towards the upper side so she starts running diagonally. With a good prepared long through ball, I get in behind the defensive line, get myself into 1 versus 1 against the keeper, and score the goal. We finally reach our final destination, level 5 with the expert player lock mechanic. This might blow your mind, so watch really carefully here. Similar to the directed runs, we want to bring one of our players to the most optimal spot. However, this time, we completely take the control over and move the target ourselves. How? To be able to enable the player lock, you need to press the L3 and R3 buttons together. Once you do that, the triangle cursor above your player's head will turn to a diamond so that you understand you enabled it. First part completed. Now you need to switch to the player you want to control manually. This is exactly done again with the right analog stick switching. Just tap the right stick towards your target and you will start controlling him. Be careful because your initial player is now AI controlled. They will keep going in the path before you switch from them, so make sure you are going on a decent line before selecting anyone else with the player lock. Once you're locked onto your new player, you can move them and require a pass. This doesn't have to be a normal pass. Through balls and even crosses work with this method. Let's see an example. We get the ball towards the left hand side and have a decent crossing option. The opponent is more focused in the front side and our striker is kinda in a bad spot. However, we have a runner towards the back post. Seeing that, we enable the player lock. From now on, we have to make 2 switches since there is someone between our intended target and the dribbler. Tapping the right analog stick twice into that direction allows us to quickly switch to the back post runner, and in the meanwhile, the dribbler keeps walking. Once we take control of that player and continue running towards the back post, we wait for the convenient moment, and since we want to get a cross in, we press the crossing button. As you can see, because of the perfect run we initiated with the player lock, we were able to score the goal. You can use player locks in different scenarios. While going down the wing for a cutback, you might want to position your receiver in the free space, so go for the player lock and receive the ball in the open. Or in the midfield as you're building up, take control of one of your players and use the player lock to get yourself into space. But there's a tiny problem about the player lock which I need to mention here. You can activate the player lock once the pass is heading towards your direction. However, you can only switch to another player after your player controls the ball. This might lead to confusion or panic if you don't know it, but since we mentioned it right now, it should be good. be careful. Coming to the ultimate trick right now, what you've seen at the start. Triggering a player lock doesn't always mean that you will use it, but does your opponent know that? Exactly. Even if you trigger it, you can cancel a player lock by pressing the both L3 and R3 buttons together. This might create incredible fakes and blow your opponent's mind. Here's an example. As we get in behind the defensive line, we get a 2 versus 1 situation. The defender is waiting in between both opportunities, trying to cover both the dribbling and the passing opportunity, so we need to outsmart him and take him out of the picture. This is why we activate the player lock and switch away to our obvious passing opportunity to bait the opponent. Once the opponent sees this, it will be impossible for him not to react. But like I've said, our intention is to outsmart him by faking the player lock. What happens? Just because he sees the player lock, he takes away his defender to cover the passing lane, which completely opens up our initial player's path, and by cancelling the player lock, we get back to our dribbler and score the goal. Outsmarting the opponents with the player lock cancel is incredibly fun, but also very hard, so you gotta practice without losing your fingers. Well, throughout the video, it got harder and only harder, but like I mentioned at the start, to become the best version out of yourself, you need to learn different methods and try to master them all. Talking about learning different methods, why don't you check out one of our latest videos where we give you 5 different corner techniques that are currently working right now. I am definitely sure that you are missing at least 2 of them, so click the video that appears on your screen right now and watch it right after this video ends. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, take care and peace.